Welcome to ComfortTV.channel news, bringing you verified and balanced news from Nigeria and around the world. I am Faith Kevin. Thank you for joining us again this evening. In the headlines, Oyo NMA suspends strike after Makinde's intervention. 895 confirmed cases, 166 deaths recorded so far in 2025, according to the NCDC. Gunmen invade ex-Ogun local government chairman's residence. Fubara sacks Governor Fubara, I beg your pardon. Again. Governor Fubara sacks commissioners, vows renewed service to rivers. INEC hosts EU delegates. NGO Lords nap tips rescue operation. On business news, external debt servicing slows to $2.86 billion in 8 months. GenCom warned of looming collapse in power sector. In the foreign scene, 4 wounded, suspect shot in Manchester synagogue attack. Refugees will have to earn rights to stay in the UK, says Prime Minister. And on sports, Moses Itauma says fighting in Nigeria is his end goal. Now the news. The Nigerian Medical Association, NMA Oyo State Chapter, has suspended its planned strike following the timely intervention of Governor Seyi Makinde. The association's General Secretary, Dr. Toby Bright, announced the suspension in a statement released on Thursday in Ibadan, thanking members for their patience and acknowledging the governor's proactive engagement. According to reports, the NMA had earlier threatened to commence industrial action if the state government failed to address critical demands affecting members' welfare. The demands included improved remuneration, timely payment of allowances, employment of more staff, infrastructural development, and proper governance structure at Lautech Teaching Hospital, LTH, among several pressing concerns. According to Dr. Bright, Makinde visited Lautech Teaching Hospital on September 30, where he pledged to settle promotion arrears and pay the minimum wage in 3 equal installments. The governor promised to constitute and inaugurate the hospital's board within 1 week. He also pledged to make the chief medical director's appointment substantive alongside the board's formation. Governor Makinde added that the computation and payment of the medical residency training fund and accoutrement allowance would be among the new board's first task. The association commended its members for their unity, the public for its support, and the governor for acting swiftly to prevent a breakdown in healthcare services across Oyo State. Dr. Bright expressed optimism that the intervention would improve collaboration between the NMA and the government, ultimately ensuring more effective and accessible healthcare delivery in the state. The Nigerian Center for Disease Control and Prevention, NCDC, has reported 11 new confirmed cases of Lassa fever in its latest situation report covering week 37. According to the update, the new cases were recorded in Ondo, Bauchi, Kogi, and Anambra states, showing a slight decline compared to the 13 cases confirmed in the previous week. The cumulative figures for 2025 now stands at 895 confirmed cases and 166 deaths, representing a case fatality rate CFR of 18.5%. This is higher than the 16.9% CFR reported during the same period in 2024. So far, 21 states across 106 local government areas have recorded at least 1 confirmed case. However, the majority of infections, about 90%, have come from Ondo, Bauchi, Edo, Taraba, and Ebonyi states, underscoring the persistent burden of the disease in these regions. The report also highlighted that the most affected age group remains 21 to 30 years, while no new healthcare worker infections were recorded during the reporting week. Encouragingly, both suspected and confirmed cases show a downward trend compared to the same period last year. The NCDC, while reaffirming its commitment to combating the outbreak, urged Nigerians to remain vigilant and adopt preventive measures such as avoiding contact with rodents, proper food storage, and seeking early medication when symptoms appear. An armed gang stormed the residence of former Ijebu-Ode local government chairman Alhaji Emilola Ghazal in the early hours of Thursday, carting away several valuables, including an undisclosed amount of cash and a vehicle. The shocking incident, which threw the neighborhood into panic, reportedly occurred while members of the household were asleep. The assailants, said to be heavily armed, broke into the compound and carried out their operation with military-like precision, leaving residents deeply shaken. Alhaji Ghazal, who is also the publisher of the Roots magazine, confirmed the incident in a telephone conversation with newsmen. He described the experience as terrifying and traumatic, stressing that the attackers were coordinated and moved swiftly with confidence. It was gathered that the invaders made away with personal belongings, cash, and a vehicle, leaving behind destruction and fear. The value of items stolen has not yet been ascertained. The Ijebu Police Area Command, Ibeba, had since been alerted. Security operatives have reportedly commenced investigations into the incident. The command confirmed the attack and assured that efforts are underway to track down the perpetrators and recover the stolen property. Community members have expressed concern over the rising spate of armed robbery incidents in parts of Ogun State, calling on security agencies to intensify patrols and surveillance, particularly at night. Residents are also urging government authorities to strengthen local security networks to forestall future occurrences. As of the time of filing this report, no arrests has been made, but police sources say intelligence gathering has begun and further updates will be communicated in due course. Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara has disengaged members of his cabinet affected by the recent Supreme Court judgment ending the tenure of commissioners and public officers whose appointments were nullified by the courts. The announcement was made during a valedictory session with the outgoing cabinet at Government House, Port Harcourt, as part of activities to mark Nigeria's 65th independence anniversary. In a statement issued by his Chief Press Secretary Nelson Chukwudi, the governor expressed gratitude to the affected officials for their service to the state over the past 2 years. The governor, who only recently returned to office following a 6-month suspension under a federal state of emergency, urged Rivers residents to remain united and work with President Bola Tinubu to build a peaceful, secure, and prosperous nation. The sack of the commissioners followed a Supreme Court verdict that nullified the appointments of several commissioners and public officers, effectively bringing their tenure to an end. Fubara said the decision to relieve them was in line with the judicial pronouncement. The affected officials were part of the administration before March 2025, when President Tinubu declared a state of emergency in the oil-rich state, suspending Fubara, his deputy, Ngozi Odu, and the state legislature. The chief observer of the European Union Election Observation Mission, who is also a member of the European Parliament, Barry Andrews, has led a delegation to an official visit to the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu. The follow-up mission held in Abuja on Thursday to get updates on the level of implementation of their recommendation after the last general elections. The mission had in July 2023 made 23 recommendations, with 8 specially directed at INEC, while the rest were for the Executive and National Assembly. The European Election Observation Mission on the 27th of June published its final report on the federal and state elections of 25th February and 18th March 2023. The chief observer, Barry Andrews, member of the European Parliament, stated in the lead up to the 2023 general elections that Nigerian citizens demonstrated a clear commitment to the democratic process. That said, he said the election exposed enduring systemic weaknesses and therefore signals a need for further legal and operational reforms to enhance transparency, inclusiveness, and accountability. Following a 3-month-long observation across Nigeria and in accordance with its usual practice, the EU EOM presented its findings and recommendations, disclosing that shortcomings in law and electoral administration hindered the conduct of well-run and inclusive elections and damaged trust in INEC. The chief observer said the mission is particularly concerned about the need for reform in 6 areas which were identified as priority recommendations. The 6 recommendations point to the need to remove ambiguities in the laws, establish a publicly accountable selection process for INEC members, ensure real-time publication of and access to election results, provide greater protection for media practitioners, address discrimination against women in political life, and impunity regarding electoral offenses. At the invitation of INEC, the EU EOM said it carried out its work between 11 January and 11 April 2023. A delegation of the European Parliament joined the EU EOM for the observation of the Presidential and National Assembly elections. The mission accredited a total of 110 observers from 25 EU member states, as well as Norway, Switzerland, and Canada. The Network Against Child Trafficking, Abuse and Labor, NACTAL Nigeria, a non-governmental organization, has lauded the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP, for rescuing 24 trafficked victims. This is contained in a statement signed by NACTAL National President Mr. Abdul Ganiyu Abubakar on Thursday in Sokoto following the successful anti-trafficking operation. He described human trafficking as a grave human rights violation, emphasizing that trafficking, abuse, and exploitations were serious crimes against humanity that stripped victims of dignity and fundamental rights. While commending NAPTIP, Mr. Abubakar urged the agency to expedite prosecution, especially in the case of Basharia, allegedly trafficked, abused, and exploited in Sokoto and other related cases. According to Mr. Abubakar, NACTAL also serves as the regional representative of the West African Coalition Against Trafficking in Persons and Smuggling, WACTIPs, operating actively within Nigeria. ComfortTV.channel news returns shortly with business, foreign, and sports news. Many thanks for staying with us. This is ComfortTV.channel news. On business, Nigeria spent $2.86 billion on external debt servicing in the first 8 months of 2025. New figures from the Central Bank of Nigeria have shown. These accounted for 69.1% of total foreign payments of $4.14 billion during the period. Comparatively, the country spent $3.06 billion on debt in the same period of 2024, representing 70.7% of total foreign payments of $4.33 billion. The data revealed that although Nigeria reduced its absolute debt service bill by about $198 million, 6.49% year-on-year, debt repayments still dominate its external obligations. Essentially, for every $10 that left Nigeria between January and August 2025, nearly $7 went towards servicing debt. The dominance of debt service in Nigeria's international payment is striking. In 2025, 69.1% of all foreign outflows in the first 8 months were used to service debts. In the same period of 2024, the share was even higher at 70.7%. This indicates that debt service obligations consistently consume at least 7 out of every $10 Nigeria spends on international payment. This trend raises important concerns. First, it places pressure on the country's foreign reserves, especially in months of heavy outflows such as March 2025, when $632.36 million went to debt servicing. Nigeria's power generation companies Gencos have raised alarm over the worsening state of the electricity sector, cautioning that without urgent reforms, the industry risks deeper deterioration with dire implications for economic growth, investor confidence, and national development. In a goodwill message marking Nigeria's 65th independence anniversary, the Association of Power Generation Companies, APGC, described the generation segment of the electricity value chain as being at a critical crossroad due to rising debt, liquidity constraints, and operational bottlenecks. Chief Executive Officer of the APGC, Joy Ogaji, who signed the statement, said debts owed to Gencos have now surpassed 5 trillion naira. largely on account of unsettled subsidy payments that cost the federal government more than 200 billion naira monthly. She warned that patriotism alone cannot sustain the operators, particularly as gas suppliers increasingly divert output away from power plants. While acknowledging recent interventions to address market liquidity and stimulate private investment, the Genco stressed that such gains could be quickly reversed. The APGC also denied viral claims on social media that the federal government had approved a 4 trillion naira debt refinancing plan to clear arrears owed to 27 power generation companies between 2015 and 2023. It maintained that no such approval had been communicated. A development analysts say highlights the persistent lack of clarity in the sector. On the foreign scene, 4 people were injured and a suspected knife man shot by police on Thursday after a car ramming and stabbing incident outside a synagogue in Manchester. Greater Manchester Police declared a major incident shortly after 9:30 a.m., 8:30 GMT after officers were called to the Higtown Park Hebrew Congregation Synagogue in the Cromsall neighborhood of the northwestern city. The incident came on the Jewish Yom Kippur holiday and days ahead of the second anniversary of the October 7, 2023 attacks on Israel. Prime Minister Keir Starmer said he was appalled by the attack, and a UK official confirmed he will be returning early from talks with the EU in Denmark. Barham urged people not to speculate on social media, while noting the Jewish community will be very worried by the news. The Northwest Ambulance Service said it had dispatched resources to the scene. Manchester Police noted it had activated Operation Plateau, the UK's national police guidance for responding to a so-called marauding terrorist attack. It involves a coordinated multi-agency effort to counter an incident involving attackers who pose an immediate and widespread threat to life. The Community Security Trust, CST, a Jewish charity that records anti-Semitic incidents, said it was working with police and the local Jewish community following the incident. Still on the foreign scene, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer stated that there will be no golden ticket to settling in the United Kingdom on the plans to require refugees to earn their rights to stay in the country in the long term. Mr. Starmer said that the government plans to end automatic family union rights for those granted asylum in the UK and change the requirements for long-term settlement. New applications to the existing refugee family reunion route have been suspended since September. The Prime Minister will hold talks on plans and how European countries can work together to tackle illegal migration at the European Political Community (EPC) summit on Thursday. He said the UK will continue to welcome genuine refugees fleeing persecution, but must also address the pull factors driving illegal small boats crossings. He will also announce a new partnership to tackle the causes of migration upstream in Western Balkan countries in a meeting with Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen. The plan, backed by up to £3 million, equaling $4 million, will include encouraging people to stay in the region and take up jobs there. Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood will outline reforms in full later this autumn, which will see refugees face a longer route to resettlement. Refugees will still be entitled to core protection and not be returned home under the changes. The government says, but a new longer route to settlement requiring them to contribute, replacing the current 5 years, will apply. The number of migrant arrivals on small boats has surpassed 34,000 in 2025, so far marking a record for this point in the year since data on channel crossings began to be reported in 2018. On sports, Nigeria's Under-17 women's team, the Flamingos, will arrive at this month's FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup in Morocco as one of the tournament's most informed sides after an extraordinary build-up in Abuja. In 8 friendly matches, the girls have won every single one, rattling in 26 goals without conceding. It's a record that has lit up their camp and raised expectations back home ahead of group stage clashes with Canada, France, and Samoa. The run had been as ruthless as it has been assured. Queen Joseph has emerged as a standout forward, grabbing a 35-minute hat-trick against Howell Prime and a double in 5-0 dismantling of Nazareth Angels. Praise Agba, Chisom Nwachukwu and Captain Shakirat Moshood have all chipped in with important goals, while goalkeeper Sylvia Echefo has been a wall between the posts, preserving a perfect defensive record. Last week alone showed the team's balance. They brushed aside Abuja All-Stars 3-0 with goals from Agba, Olamide Olariwaju and Zainab Raji, before grinding through a rain-hit match against Josiah Academy, where Nwachukwu struck twice early to settle nerves. The squad departs for Morocco on 8 October with the tournament running from 17 October to 8 November. Canada and France will start as favorites in Group D, but Nigeria's flawless preparation makes them a dangerous dark horse. Still on sport, Moses Itauma has described fighting in his father's homeland of Nigeria as the end goal. The 20-year-old is widely considered the future of the division following his explosive surge to 13-0, 11 KOs in his first 2.5 years as a professional. His last outing was the 119th second stoppage of former world heavyweight title challenger Dillian White on August 16 at A&B Arena in Riyadh. As revealed by his promoter Frank Warren in September, the right-handed southpaw will return to the ring in Manchester in December 13 in a headline fight at Co-op Live Arena. Itauma was born in Slovakia before moving to Chatham, Kent as a child, but his dad is Nigerian. It was the heavyweight's first return to Nigeria, Africa's most populous country, since he was a kid, and he has revealed he has hopes to box there one day. His outing in December is expected to be the toughest test of his career to date, with the ring's Mike Coppinger reporting that Michael Hunter and David Adeleye are currently options for the fight. And that's our news bulletin. For today. Before we go, here is a recap of our top stories. Oyo NMA suspends strike after Governor Makinde's intervention. 895 confirmed cases, 166 deaths recorded so far in 2025, says NCDC. Gunmen invade ex-Ogun local government chairman's residence. Governor Fubara sacks commissioners, vows renewed service to Rivers. INEC hosts EU delegates, NGO Lord's NAPTIP's rescue operation. On business, external debt servicing slows to 2.86 billion in 8 months. Jenkos warn of looming collapse in power sector. On the foreign scene, 4 wounded, suspect shot in Manchester synagogue attack. And refugees will have to earn right to stay in UK, says Prime Minister. On sports, Moses Itauma says fighting in Nigeria is his end goal. Thanks for watching. For breaking news, exclusive interviews and more, follow us online at ComfortTV.channel on all platforms. Remember to like and share our videos, subscribe to our channel and click on the notification bell so you don't miss out on any updates. I am Faith Kevin. Until next time, stay connected, stay informed.